Hi, guys.
So we're gonna start it off. If you could just kind of introduce yourself, like who is Pam? We know you in Dallas as Big Money Pam.
I
Y'all
don't
may
know
have
that.
seen her. Y'all may have seen her on the Galentine's Day episode as well. But go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of tell us a little bit about who you are.
As she mentioned, my name is Pam. Originally from Atlanta, Georgia. Well, Nigerian. Have to throw that out there.
Okay.
But originally from Atlanta, Georgia. Moved to Dallas about 3 years ago, and have loved it ever since. Um,
I'm here, so
yeah, that too. That's definitely keeping me here,
big
for sure.
vibes, absolutely. I love that. So what are you doing now in corporate America?
So, I work for a financial institution, primarily in cybersecurity risk. I've been doing that for 10 years, currently as a director. So,
Period. Period.
yes.
How does that feeling like being in a director role of a financial institution corporation? Like,
Um, I love what I do. Definitely has its pros and cons. Definitely challenging, especially being a minority woman
mhm,
in a male-dominated field, right? There's definitely been a lot of like growing opportunities, and I love to challenge myself, right?
mhm.
So that's definitely been a motivating factor, and that's what's really kept me in the field. Cybersecurity risk ever evolving, so and job security because I got bills, honey.
That part. So, what made you go into cybersecurity?
Um, Honestly, so originally I was supposed to go to med school.
Okay.
Um,
Were you pre med bio?
yeah, but we're
Okay.
not gonna go into that. I was forced into it. Having Nigerian parents, but I didn't feel called to do it, and
Mhm.
honestly just wasn't focused. Like undergrad, I really wasn't. So I honestly, after graduation, I didn't know what I was going to do.
Mhm.
I worked in our family practice, well, my uncle's family practice for a while, and I was just like, medicine is just not my thing.
Mhm.
Um, and I think he had I don't know, a patient or someone that came in and offered me an internship, pretty much like, hey, what do you want to do? I was like, I have no idea. And honestly, from there, I started as an like internal audit analyst, and I literally just, you know, um, climbed the corporate ladder for lack of a better term. But I always wanted to challenge myself. So one thing I did was I shadowed different business units within
Mhm.
that particular institution. That's when I was in Atlanta. So I was just like intrigued with security and technology,
It was
and I
very
knew,
nerdy of you.
right, I know. And you know what? In high school, I actually did coding, and I was like, you know what? This is actually pretty cool. And from there, I just, kind of, I didn't, I actually now went back, did my master's, started taking certifications, and
Mhm.
that's kind of how I got into it.
Okay. So, what advice would you give people that are looking to just start off?
Uh, I think networking right now, especially in this era, right? I think networking is a huge thing. I'm socially awkward, so contrary to popular belief,
They would never. They would
I
never
am
know.
socially awkward. So I didn't really network when I was younger, and I
Mhm.
think that really held me back, right? Granted, I had to do a lot of groundwork, but I think networking is a huge, huge opportunity to kind of get to the next level within corporate America,
Mhm.
even within like, entrepreneurship, right? And a mentor, I think that's really big. Someone in that space, someone in that community, whatever you want to call it, is a huge thing. And set goals for yourself, whether they're short term goals, long term goals, and time management, right?
Mhm.
Carve out time to kind of focus on like what scope you want to, whether it's cybersecurity. Again, cybersecurity, there's a lot of fields within cybersecurity. If it's
Mhm.
IAM, if it's vulnerability management, if it's governance, risk, and security, like whatever it is, focus on one scope. And if you want to kind of like verge into or kind of veer into something else, you can always do that. But to answer your question, networking and create like a roadmap where you want to kind of go.
Makes sense. So, what would you say are some of the challenges in being in such a male-dominated field? Specifically, tech. I know it's like
Uh,
I don't see a lot. I see women, but not really. Especially
yes.
black women.
So there are, I don't know where to start, but I would say personally, when it comes to kind of your career trajectory, right?
Mhm.
You always want to kind of move up the corporate ladder. And as like you mentioned, it's a male dominated field. So how do I get to the next step? I honestly feel I have to personally work twice as hard compared to my peers, whether they're males or a different ethnicity. But
Right.
I always feel like I have to, kind of deliver twice as much,
Mhm.
creating a footprint across the organization, being
Mhm.
very dominant. And when I say dominant, just not being too passive
Mhm.
towards stuff. Whether they're initiatives, strategic objectives, when it comes to, just program enhancement, you have
Mhm.
to be really vocal.
Right.
Like that's the only way they're going to see your worth, right? So,
Mhm.
but challenges, yeah, I think within corporate you're always going to have challenges, but that's my huge thing. Like trying to climb the corporate ladder, like who do I
Play the
talk to?
game.
Right, you
Yeah.
really have to play the game.
No, yeah, I feel like that. Like when I first went into corporate, so my first corporate job was also at a financial institution as an intern. And I was like, this is not for me.
Right.
And it was like in 20, I'm dating myself now, but it was like 2013 where I was still in undergrad and I was political science major. And I was like, okay, maybe I can do quasi government, go into that. And I was natural at the time. Like I was, and that's when we were wearing like the natural hair. I had my
Right.
hair in a mohawk all the time. And I just feel like my like aesthetic didn't fit well within what I was trying to do or like who I was trying to be in this corporate setting. And so I was like, I'm never doing this.
Absolutely.
Like I'm
Yeah,
never doing, you don't feel
absolutely.
like it's not a welcoming environment for
It's
Black
not.
women.
And in order to be received or perceived as someone who is deemed valuable of a certain position, right? You literally have to play that role.
Right.
So I have peers that would come into, and there's nothing wrong with this. I would have peers in management or senior leadership come in like a t-shirt, jeans, I don't know, Sperry's for all I know. And I'm
Not
coming in
Sperry's.
full blazer, heels, like hair done
Mhm.
every single day.
Yeah.
Like I'm, I have an executive board meeting or something, and I'm literally just performing my BAU. So
Mhm.
that always goes a long way. And like my mom said, dress like you want to be, as you want to be addressed, right?
Yeah.
So that also goes. Those little like quick wins go a long way.
One of the things that we also talk about with Black women in corporate America is code switching. I definitely code switch.
All the
I feel like
time.
I'm code switching now, but it just depends kind of on like the environment that you're in. Have there been moments where you feel like you had to code switch, and I guess it goes into just the your outfits and the aesthetic as well.
Absolutely, all the time. Um, and I will say this, even growing up, right? And I don't know if it had to do with, kind of where I grew up in a predominantly Caucasian neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go visit my cousins, like on the south side of Atlanta, they would always pick on me. They're like, "Why do you sound like a white girl?"
Mm.
So you know what? I was like, you know what? I need to start really getting with it.
Oh.
So at work, well, when I have, presentations for the board or senior leadership,
Mm-hmm.
you have to.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I know it sounds mundane or just ridiculous sometimes, but you really have to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, like you said, you have to play the game. So while I'm at work, I have friends call me during my break and they're like, "Girl, why you sound like that? That's not how you talk." I'm like, "Girl, I'm at work. What you want?"
It's me that's
But
calling you.
right, exactly.
Especially
Like
when you turn on your Nigerian accent.
I said, I beg. No, don't stress me.
No, that's real. I think right now what I've seen like in the news, like the Black politicians, the women, they're doing a really good job, I think, of embracing like who they are.
Hmm.
And so I really appreciate that. But I think they also get backlash like within our own community where they're like,
Absolutely.
they too ghetto to be like
Absolutely.
Kamala, like bring it now. I was a little questionable about her bringing Meg because it was a little raunchy. However, like I feel like it's such an issue within our own community when you're trying to embrace yourself, but then
Hmm.
it's also an issue where you feel like you're code switching and you're trying to fit into this corporate or like culture that doesn't necessarily accept you. So no, yeah, I feel like how do you feel like we move forward like in those specific settings where we're not always like appeasing everyone?
You know what? After, again, I've been in my field like for 10 years now, not dating myself, but since college,
We
so I'm
both a
not that
little,
old.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I've learned to literally embrace who I am,
No,
right?
yeah.
Even in the workplace, like I get it. During presentations, I'm not going to, kind of go the far, like I'm having a conversation with my
Mm-hmm.
homegirl. But I've literally learned how to embrace myself, not only being a minority,
Mm-hmm.
but being Nigerian, being African,
Yeah.
and being a woman in a male dominated field.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, your work ethic is going to speak for itself.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So whether you try to, put on this facade, you are who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And once you understand that, I promise you, it's like seamless. You'll always have your challenges, but always embrace who you are at the end of the day.
Yeah, I really feel like people appreciate me more for like being authentic when I'm in the workplace.
Absolutely.
Like even like my work besties or like
Mm-hmm.
my like quick kikis that I'll have. I will say when I'm on meetings, I am not the person that wants to talk about my life for the first five
Not at
minutes
all.
because I'm trying to get through the meeting.
Right. And
However,
move on.
like and move on. However, like when I have like interactions, like quick interactions, or even like when I go visit like in the facilities that we work in, like they kind of get to see me like who like outside of the screen or like
Right.
outside of the title or whatever. And so I feel like that just helps build rapport with
Oh,
people.
yeah.
Aside from you almost being like a corporate puppet,
Mm-hmm.
you know? All right.
Absolutely.
So cybersecurity, what's the bag looking like? People want to know, like, is this, I have a, she's my cousin-in-law. She's Corby's niece. Cousin, she my family.
Okay.
But so like one of the things like she's interested in going cybersecurity. She asked me like, like financially, like, is it making sense? Like right now tech is booming. Like I heard somebody say the other day that they went to the club and people thought they were scammers because they were
Right.
spending all this money. And he's like, I'm in tech. I just got, I'm either job stacking or I'm just like in a very high position where I'm able to make a certain amount of money. So what have you seen in terms, you don't have to tell us what you're making, but what is it looking like for somebody who wants to make cybersecurity a long-term career?
So I'm a firm believer. And again, obviously, this is more accumulated knowledge, right? I didn't go into it with the mindset that I'm just going to make a whole lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest with you. Again, I wanted to be a doctor just because I wanted to make money.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew everybody in my family in medicine, whether it's a doctor, nurse, they were making some kind of, money. But I actually enjoy what I do. And a lot of folks go into these careers and get so burnt out because they go in with the intention that I'm going to start making figures. Total transparency, I was not making six figures for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, right? And again, dating back to when I started, right? Different times, but an entry level position, making six figures right now in this economy is a stretch. Yeah. Not that's not feasible or attainable. It absolutely is. Again, I always try to, kind of, where do I foresee myself in 10 years? Like, okay, do I want to spend more time with family? Do I want to travel more? Sometimes it's not all about the money, but it is, right? Mm-hmm. Like I have bills, right. And sometimes I'm skilled. I've taken a pay cut to just have sanity. Mm-hmm. Like I've done that in the past. And sometimes I'm like, okay, well, I think I need to level up just a couple more thousand. So it just depends where you are in life, kind of what you foresee yourself in 5-10 years. But to answer your question, don't go into a career solely based on, oh, I just want to make a shit ton of money. Excuse my language. I would not advise that because you go in, you're burnt out, and you're trying to look for something else.
Yeah, I always feel like it's dangerous when you have people who don't know when to stop.
Right.
Like, it's amazing to like have a mindset of being very driven and very ambitious. And even when we talk about like guys that we like we want to date, we want
Mm-hmm.
somebody that's very driven, very ambitious. However, like you need to have a point where it's like, okay, in this chapter, wherever, like you need to have some type of end goal. Like I feel like,
oh, absolutely,
so you don't have that burnout, so
right.
You don't feel like you kind of just like past life because you've been grinding and also in hustle mode. So I also appreciate people who also know how to do work-life balance.
Absolutely.
I fully believe in work-life balance.
Listen. That's a huge, no, that's a huge thing.
I work hard and I play even harder. Like, absolutely.
Work-life balance is imperative. Like, I'm not going to quote the firm, but when I was in consulting, I have been at my desk
Mm.
like boohoo crying.
No, they think that's normal.
That is not normal.
Yo,
If you're in a job that makes you cry
no,
25% of the time, that is not normal.
they think it's normal.
It's not a norm.
And even they think like working all of those hours, like I was sitting, like my former manager, she was an accountant, and she would tell us like, yeah, in the old days we were working like 10 hours a day, and I was looking at her like, I hope you don't have that same mindset, because that's not
It's not going to happen. It's absolutely not going to happen. And I level set. You see, time management and level set expectations. Like at the end of the day, especially in consulting, right? You get your statement of work. This is what you need to do. Blah blah blah. But they always give you also like 5 different engagements. Like what kind of like what's my work going to look like if I'm on 5 different engagements working like 12 hours a day? I'm going to be providing mediocrity for you. Like I'm not really delivering, right?
That's real. And we ain't had ChatGPT back then, so.
Child, I don't even trust. Look, we're not gonna even get into AI right now because
She know I love ChatGPT. That is like my bestie. Like, yeah, we gonna get a real bad.
No, it doesn't work, guys.
Okay, so speaking of financial, just financially being doing really well, I can say that, and I guess my friends be getting the money. I love that. They encourage me to do so as well. How does that look in terms of like your relationships? Like, you do work a lot. Like, do you feel like you put a lot of investment and time into your dating life?
That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, well, I can't speak recently because I've been single for a while, but in the past, I think it's a struggle, right? Especially when you're super driven, when you're in your prime of your career.
Mm-hmm.
You always kind of, it's a struggle. You want to make sure you're carving out time for your partner, and you also want to make sure you're dedicating time to your job that's actually feeding you, right? So again, I think it circles back to being equally yoked with a partner.
Mm.
So one thing I've taken from like my past relationships going into a new one, whenever that is, right, is that I want to be equally yoked with my partner, whether it's career, whether it's our faith, whether it's like, our ambitions, our goals, because at that point you understand each other.
Yeah.
When you're not equally yoked, there's always going to be a rift. There's always going
Confusion.
To be chaos.
Yeah, chaos.
Right? So, and child, I love peace.
Yeah, that part.
Like, I understand why men don't like women that be nagging, that be like, I don't even like it.
Yeah.
And I'm a woman. I think that's a huge thing.
I feel you. Being such like a boss, like woman, like especially like being a director right now, do you feel like the pressure to ever dim your light in relationships if you're dating someone who isn't necessarily, the title doesn't align?
In the past, I wouldn't say dim my light, but first of all, I hate telling people what I do. Like I don't even like having those conversations, but I don't.
This time and age, everybody's like, "What do you do? What do you do?"
It's like the first thing. It's just like,
the first thing they ask.
Like, you want to ask me my name first? Like, right? But dim my light, no. I think it's more. I grew up country, so I like my man to take charge, right? Regardless of what you're doing, regardless of where you are in life, and it circles back to being equally yoked. We don't have to be in the same field. We don't even have to be in the same pay band or whatever you want to call it. But as long as you're ambitious, as long as you're driven, motivated, I'm always going to be kind of your backbone, right? And again, circling back to my faith too, like I believe the man's the head of the household. So dim my light, I wouldn't call it dim my light, but I'll be a supportive partner without having to feel, I have to kind of downplay myself because you want to feel, I don't know.
I'm a firm believer, and I want to be with somebody that can lead because I
absolutely.
Okay,
I love to be led.
Yeah, I'm okay with following. So I feel like high achieving women is like what I would call the both of us. Like we have to be able to compromise, or not. I don't know if it's a compromise, but that mindset of like we both pushing 50, we both leading, like no, leave my household.
Right.
Like, and kind of being okay with it. Like, I feel like it's so, like, independent women, like, I've done that. Now I'm
Right.
ready to follow. Like I want to be with
Absolutely.
somebody who's able to do that for me and do that for our family.
Absolutely. I love to be led. I don't even want to think. They're like, oh, what do you want to do? I
I
want to
would
be call
much
my
rather
husband
not
and be
think.
like, look, what should I do?
I would much rather not think. No, I hear you. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up a little bit, but if you were to forecast the next 5 years, what are you manifesting in your career, your love
Mm,
life? Is there anything that?
that's a great question. Uh, so I would say first and foremost, having a deeper relationship with Christ. That's like literally my
Thank
priority.
you, Jesus.
Yes, that's literally my priority. You know, Matthew 6:33. I'm going to preach a little bit.
Okay, not you got it
I love,
memorized.
right. I live by this, seeking the kingdom of God first, because literally everything else falls into place.
That's right.
It's mind boggling when you least expect it.
Mhm.
God shows up and shows out. And when he shows up and shows out, it's like beyond your expectation, right? And he's
Beyond.
never failed me. So, and
You better
again,
make me shout, girl.
girl, what? Honey, I have
Right.
like I've gone through it. You
Yeah.
know, I come from very, very humble beginnings. My parents are both foreigners. So it wasn't always easy, you
Yeah.
know. So at the end of the day, seeking the kingdom of God first, but having a deeper relationship with Christ, by the grace of God, you know, married to a godly man, being equally yoked, whomever that is, and just raising my family with those, you know, same morals, you know, definitely, especially kids nowadays, honey. I see my nieces and nephews, and I just pray because I
It's
don't
not.
even know. So I'm just like, you know what,
It don't look
God, whatever your
attractive
plan
at
is,
all.
right. But I want to make sure that whoever my partner is, that we have a firm foundation in leading that, you know, feeding that into our kids, what have you.
I love
And I
that.
just want to live a simple life, you know,
It ain't that
enjoyable.
simple.
I mean, when I say simple, like happy.
Ain't you about to go to Dubai in like a few days or
When I say
something?
simple, I say happy.
Oh, okay. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, cool. I love that. Well, thank you for coming on and just talking a little bit
Absolutely.
about corporate America as a Black woman. I absolutely love that. I encourage like everybody watching this to continue to like don't just. I feel like they've been Xing out corporate recently, and it's like, girl, it's still jobs. It's still money to be made. So
Child.
if that's your lane, that's your lane. Don't let people
Right.
discourage you, and don't let the corporate lifestyle, the culture, discourage you from being authentically who you
Absolutely.
are.
I love that.
I'm Mayana Faye, and this is Cyber Season, the podcast. Yay.
That's cute.